Hello, my beautiful humans, and welcome to the Becoming Human 2.0 Unscripted Podcast. I'm your host, Paul McFadden, and it's my mission to create global impact and cultivate real connections through having authentic conversations that matter. Today, I'm joined by my special guest, Gina Marisa, another beautiful human from the state of Georgia, USA. In this episode, we discuss embracing unscripted conversations, fostering genuine connections in a digital age. And of course, this conversation was completely unscripted. Here's a quick peek, and then we'll jump right into the conversation. So enjoy. And remember, we are all here to discover, awaken, and evolve together. AI is not going anywhere. That train is here. And
It just started. Yep.
It's going to continue moving forward.
Yep.
And there are going to be, in all industries, jobs and roles that won't require people per se. You might need engineers tweaking algorithms, doing this, that, and the other, but you won't need individuals sitting in a chair behind a desk processing analysis when AI can do it. And so that would have been the thing if you'd have asked me, I would have said, oh, we got about 5 to 7 years. Now I'm thinking we got about 2 to 3 years maximum, because it's moving very quickly.
Very fast.
And I don't know that we have the bumpers on. What if this was the podcast? And I said, let me consider that. I don't want to catch the first 10 people off guard with that. But then I started thinking, like, that could be an interesting take on it, because that's completely unscripted. That means you don't even know who you're going to have a conversation with until you have the conversation.
Right.
And I guess that gives me freedom too, that if it's a great conversation, make it the podcast. If it's not, I met someone new and it's all great. Because the real thing here is everybody's got their own expertise. Everybody's got a story to tell.
Right.
And I truly believe that. And does the story resonate with the audience is really what the whole point is. I'm in multiple communities, and those communities exist because we participate in the same activities together.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not having deep philosophical conversations. We're not certainly engaged in building meaningful relationships and connection, but we do share the activities together. And I am craving real conversation with people, making real connection, and not just connection for the moment, but connections that I hope will cultivate into much stronger relationships down the road, and create a community or a tribe, if you will, where we are serving one another, sharing our stories, serving one another in a way that we're all in this place, in this journey in life. And we all have the value that we can offer one another. And no matter where you are in your journey or where I am in my journey, there's always something to be learned.
Yes.
And if there's a nugget that can be shared with the audience abroad, then we almost have a duty to do so.
Yes, I love that. Like when I saw your post, I could tell that you have this big vision. And like you said, not necessarily, I wasn't thinking deeper conversations, but yes, something like, I don't know how I would name it, but yes, deeper conversations. I could tell that was your goal. And I love that. And I do believe that more people are craving that. Everything right now, especially since social media came out, I don't know how old you are, but like everything is so superficial, right?
Yeah.
And I am of an era before social media. I guess now it's so weird to be saying this because my parents are older, obviously, and the whole old school concept, right? But I feel like I still use paper and stuff to take notes. So I'm very old school now.
That's so interesting. First of all, both your parents are still alive, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good, good. Mine are too. And I'm like you. I mean, we watch technology age from the beginning.
Yeah.
And we saw the internet come online. We saw the first handheld cell phones come online. We watched the transformation from BlackBerry to flip
Oh, that's
phones
right.
to iPhones to Razors to Android to what we have today. We watched all the video gaming consoles come online and how that has morphed into what we see now.
Yes.
Um, and I still write down things on paper,
Oh, good. I'm not the only one.
but I also take notes in on the computer and things of that nature because
Right.
it's a necessary beast,
It is.
but there's a lot of wisdom there, right? Because I think that and I want to get into who you are and what you do because I certainly am very interested in that. There's a lot of wisdom in that because yeah, I feel like we're at a precipice where we've got the technology, and the technology can do some really great things. Technology can help people see what never seen before. People walked who've never walked before, replace limbs with bionics, and there's nanotechnology. When we have robots doing surgeries, intricate, delicate surgeries on human beings. And it's almost like we could give it all to technology. We could. And I think there are some people that would rather that we do give it all to technology because
Yep.
of the human factor and the fact that we're not perfect and we can make mistakes.
Mhm.
But in that process, we learn. And even though mistakes can be deadly sometimes and certainly or detrimental at minimal, it's the opportunity for us to learn and improve and be better. And I'm not ready to give my evolution, if you will, to the machines.
Me either.
And I don't want it for my grandchildren, and I don't want it for their children, and so on and so forth. And I think there's a lot of I was on a podcast this morning, and we were talking about unleashing potentiality or shining light on potentiality. And I said, we have what I call it an unbounded potential within each and every one of us. It's innate. It exists from the time that we decided to be in this existence wherever we were born.
Mhm.
Um, and it really has been up to our life experiences that either shine light on what that potential is or not. And some of that has to do with the environments that we're in, and certainly caregivers, and certainly the experiences that we have with other individuals. But it's also due to what our own mindsets that get developed, what our own value systems are, how we perceive those situations, and then certainly what we either choose to do or we let those situations drive our mindset and behavior moving forward. But the potential is always there. So
Agreed.
so it's interesting to see how we have developed over the generations and where we are today. And I agree with you. I feel the same way. I feel like people are ready. There's a lot more people seeking than not.
Yes.
And it's, and we're not having those conversations. It's like those conversations at best are happening behind closed doors, at worst, not happening at all. And when I look at the communities, like I said, that I belong to, those conversations aren't really happening.
Mhm.
And I feel like they need to. And you're right, it's a bigger vision that I want to get started is, you know, there are things we've done anciently over time. And some of the things that we do not do anymore, I would say are part of the reason why we're having the experience that we're having because we've got away from some of the ancient traditions. Not all of them are great. We can look at history and see that not all of those traditions were great traditions, but there
Right.
were some that served our development and evolution really well. And it's like we've forgotten about.
I don't know if we forgot about them, but I feel like that a lot of them have been suppressed.
They've been certainly suppressed. It's probably a
Which
better way to
which
state it. Mhm.
yes, so yes, you're right. We have forgotten because they've been suppressed and there's so many, especially the younger generations have no idea.
Mhm.
Like for me, I school was okay and everything, and college was fine, but I have done so much more learning since I've been on my own. And especially, certainly, the internet has helped because now I have access to more information. Sometimes that's not a good thing. Like information overload is a real thing. But there are so many more opportunities, and a lot of people aren't even like seeking that out. And I think it's a shame. And you're right, there's so many things, so many good things, especially in health and wellness, that have gotten us here that have been suppressed. And that's part of my mission is to bring that out, to show people that you don't have to have necessarily surgeries and drugs to be better or to feel better. There are so many free things that you can do that are better, as good as, if not better than pharmaceuticals.
Certainly. And there's a place for that too. I think
Of
that there's a
course.
place for that.
Of course.
I've been sharing with folks. I say, I look at people. I was going to say four, but now it's really changed into five buckets. And I'll say the first bucket first, because I think the first bucket is probably the most important bucket. Is that we're talking about people seeking, but I feel like people are craving connection and
Yes.
craving the in-person connection.
Yes.
But it's because connecting interpersonally is both an art and a science. And I don't think we were doing a great job pre-pandemic. I think we were doing okay, but I think we could have been doing a much better job
Agreed.
prior to that. But it's like with just the pandemic, it's just interesting to see how disconnected we truly have become. And I think people sense that. And it's like, we need to be connected. I don't know how to do it because I don't like people, or I don't like the process, or I don't even know how to do it. There's that too. And it's like we can take off the mask and be more authentic because we don't have to wear it anymore, so to speak, as a society. But yet it's okay now that you see who I really am. I don't know. First of all, I don't even know if I like myself, but but then
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to like me too. And so therefore I'm just going to keep to myself. And of course that's not the direction that's going to yield us the best benefit if we do that. So I feel like people are craving connection, but don't know where to start. And then there's the seekers, and the seekers are looking to answer those questions about purpose and meaning and passion and what am I values and who am I and what am I here to do. But yet, I would say in the last 2 or 3 years, maybe 1 million coaches popped up online suddenly, and it's a lot of people with a lot of opinions without a whole lot of. And I say it, I'm gonna say it loosely because I don't want to sound judgmental, but it also, and I don't want to get into your background because, like, for me, I've studied for over a decade, longer than that. We have the human experience, but there's been formal studying, training, and knowledge seeking to be able to do the things that I do and do the work that I do, particularly in the areas. And besides, so I'm an executive and team coach. I'm a personal trainer, certified. I'm a certified meditation instructor. I'm certified in resilience training. I'm a certified functional medicine health coach. And so I've had these understandings of all these intricate systems within the human experience. And yet someone can go online and take a coaching course for 3 weeks and get a certificate for $250 and say, I'm a coach.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I am a certified yoga teacher and did my 6 months in a yoga studio. And a year or two later, saw that you could do a teacher training online. And I was like,
Mm.
how does that work?
How does that work?
Knowing what I went through to
Right.
get my certification. And I think that, okay, so you do get your certification online. Like, to your point, you're missing out on the connection, number one. Like, I made two very good friends in
Mm.
my teacher training, and there were only 6 of us. There's just something different about being in person, and I know that it's difficult for the younger generation to really understand that because they haven't grown up like that. You and I have, like you said, we've seen the transition of the technology, but I think also that it's that they don't know how to connect, and it's detrimental, as post-pandemic showed. Suicides are up, depression is up. We have a huge mental health problem in this country and probably worldwide.
Yeah, so in thinking about that, and you bring up a valid point, those transitions, we saw them over a period of time. It's funny to look back on it now. So, hey, we had the TI-64. My father had the first handheld cell phone in a case. It was about the size of a briefcase.
My mom did too.
And then we had the first one installed in the car, and I was like, oh my God, you got a cell phone in the car. This is crazy. This is
Yeah.
awesome. Right? And yet, many of the younger generations are born with computers in their hand.
Yep.
Social media came into full swing, and many of their connections and where much of their information comes from is from the online experience. And that's great because it's more information that we had access to when we were young. So there's beauty in that. So I wouldn't want to give anybody the impression that I'm saying that innovation is not necessary, because look, if you can get a yoga teacher certification online, that's great. That's innovation. But like you said, you got to make sure you have the connection. And I think that's really the driving force here with a lot of people is it's the connection, and people can't identify it. They want connection, but they can't articulate that they want connection. But they want purpose and meaning. I know that because I hear that all the time. And then there's people who want more time and balance because they're seeking. They might take a couple yoga classes, maybe 1 or 2 a week. They might be doing some physical fitness. They might be doing some things, trying to eat right and doing a nutritional thing. They might dabble and try a little bit. I call them the dabblers. They might do a little bit of meditation. And there's nothing wrong with that because I think that
Right.
we're balancing life. We have children, we have relationships, we have pets, we have jobs and occupations and all these things. We're juggling this thing we call life. And so those priorities, shift day in and day out. So it's not always a priority. Self-care is not always a priority. It's not always there. Neither is personal well-being. It also hinders our ability to evolve because we don't do the things that we sometimes say we need to do. I hate that. I hate saying it like that. Things we need to do. But the things that certainly would be beneficial not only to our survival, but and vitality and longevity, but also be vital to our experiencing a balanced well-being overall, whether that's emotionally, mentally, physically, or spiritually, right? And I'll talk about consciously another time, but that's there. But so the dabblers can't have the full experience. They get a taste every once in a while. Then there's the people who have been doing things, and then this is the category I found myself in was I have an established yoga practice. I have an established meditation practice. I have an established qigong practice. I have gone on retreats. I've gone to the personal development seminars. I've done the masterminds. I've done the long weekends. And everybody out there promises this exquisite transformation where you're going to do this retreat for a week and suddenly you're going to find that you're going to be floating in the air at the end of it. A lightning bolt's going to strike you in the head and come out of the other side, and you're going to turn gold and you're going to be enlightened. And that doesn't happen that way.
No, it doesn't. And it's great. And I've done all those things too. And it's great while you're there, but then you have to come back to the real world.
To the real world.
And I think so many people have a difficult time, myself included, right? Coming back from a retreat, being on that high and trying to keep that momentum going in the real world.
And so it's a problem with integration, right? And the thing is with integration, there's no guarantee you're going to integrate while you're at the experience. There's no guarantee you're going to integrate the day after, the week after, the month after. It might be 6 months down the road when something clicks and you don't have the support system and the accountability and all the things that are necessary to help you navigate through that quote unquote insight or enlightenment that comes out from the experience. And so we've risked doing more harm than good in some respects. And then there are folks who have had experiences, they've had some goals and they've achieved the things that they wanted to achieve at the time. But they've hit this plateau now because the practices got them to a certain place. They've achieved the goal, and there is the what is next. That is the most important thing. And is there another goal? Is there another level I need to achieve? Have I reached the pinnacle? Of course, my argument is I don't know that we will ever see a quote unquote quote enlightened person in our lifetime, let alone anytime. I don't know if that exists. I know it's a journey, and I know that
Hmm.
we are continually growing and learning. And if we're not growing, a lot of people have already said it in the past. If we're not
Hmm.
growing, we're dying, right? We're
Right.
stagnant. And
Right.
so it seems to me we're always on the journey, on the path, but never reach the end of the path. And I just like having more awareness and being able to have practices to put me in states that I'd like to be in and have those
Hmm.
experiences of transcending or having an out of body experience or having whatever, so feeling like I'm closer to source, creator, the universe, God, whatever you want to name that, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Higher. And the more often I can have that experience, the more awareness I feel like I develop. And that's great because then I can share those experiences with other people.
Yes.
Right. And hopefully
I
teach them how to do the same thing.
Yes. Agreed.
Mm,
Agreed.
mhm.
100%. Everything you just said.
Are you from Georgia originally?
No, I'm from Florida.
Okay.
I actually 3.5 years ago sold my house and moved into an RV with my boyfriend full time. I
You're
travel the
now doing the
country now.
nomad. Now you're doing nomad thing.
I am doing nomad thing. If
That's
you
so
had told
funny.
me 10 years ago that I would be driving a 24-foot RV, I would have said, "Oh hell no." I didn't even like driving my dad's Tahoe,
Oh my goodness.
and my car is a Camry, so yeah, I don't like big cars, and yet here I am. I've been on this mission the past, I don't know, 10 years or so to reinvent myself, do things that scare me, break me out of
Mm,
my shell. So
mhm.
this is one of them.
That's awesome. So where is your sweet spot now? I'm sure there's a whole history of what you've done in the past, but where is your sweet spot now? Where you focused?
Right now, so it's been quite a year for me. In January of this year, I decided to retire from my corporate job of 33 years. And
Hmm.
so I finished up there in March because I have been dabbling in getting my own business started for the past 5 years, but it didn't really, I haven't done anything with it. And what I noticed was that I can't have my full-time job and run my business because I can't focus on two things.
Hmm.
I needed the time to spend on just my business. So I decided after 33 years that it was time. I wasn't doing something that I was passionate about anyway. I, so I started, I hired a business coach in August and have been working with her since then. And finally got the business up and running. So that's what I'm working on now. And it's so I am a stress management expert and I help professionals to lower stress using holistic methods,
Hmm.
like I was mentioning earlier. So there's so many free things that you can
Hmm.
do to lower stress. And it's a huge problem that I see today. People have so many things going on and they don't, to your point about self-care, these people probably aren't even dabbling in self-care. So it's a big issue, but my whole thing is I want to show people that it can be simple.
Yeah.
So that's my thing is
I love simple stress solution. It's funny, like I was on this podcast this morning, as I mentioned earlier, and I said these things aren't easy, but they're simple. And the reason
right.
why they're not easy is because you have however long that person has been in this experience living, that's how many years of experience that they have. And that's all neural networks that have been created, that have been hardwired to, and I'm saying hardwired loosely because I know that we can change. And so it takes a lot of focus and intention and attention to make that happen.
Hmm.
But you have to shift the mindset, and you can't make someone shift their mindset. They have to see that for themselves. It's self-directed. It's like the pain of changing has to be less than the pain of staying the same.
Yes.
Because if it's more comfortable than changing, we're going to stay right here.
Which is why I think I stayed in my job was so long, right? And a job that I didn't like because it was so comfortable. It's something that I knew. I'd been in my house for 19 years. I've lived in Florida my entire life. COVID really opened my eyes to that. And I don't know where the idea came from for me to sell everything and move into an RV because I didn't have cable at the time. So it's not like I even knew this was a thing, but this is a thing. It's like a big thing. There's like a whole industry and like of RVers out there. Yeah, I had no idea. Like van life. I didn't even know about van life. That's a thing too. But that's not for me. But yeah, I was just got to this point where I was thinking while I was working from home while we were on lockdown. And I was like, I don't want to go out like this. Like I want to do something else. And I do believe that a lot of people had an awakening during that time. Because we were forced to slow down, right? We were forced to. And so people are home with their kids, they're working from home. It's a different lifestyle. So many more people now, in fact, really like working from home. They like that flexibility. And so when the employers said, all right, you got to come back into the office, people are like, no, I don't want to do that. So I just had a call today with a woman who was talking about that Amazon or something is saying people have to go back to the office in January. And I don't know how many people are going to go back.
That is interesting. I've been working with lots of folks on the federal side, and over the last decade and a half, 2 decades almost. And of course, that's a big fear now is that many of those federal workers are going to have to come back to the office. There's also a fear that there's going to be jobs that either are eliminated or not filled permanently. So that decreases the number of opportunities for upward mobility in some respects. And then you have the whole technology boom. AI is not going anywhere. That train is here. And
it just started. Yep.
It's going to continue moving forward.
Yep.
And there are going to be, in all industries, jobs and roles that won't require people per se. You might need engineers tweaking algorithms, doing this and that and the other, but you won't need individuals sitting in a chair behind a desk processing analysis when AI can do it. And so that would have been a thing if you'd have asked me, I would have said, oh, we got about 5 to 7 years. Now I'm thinking we got about 2 to 3 years maximum, because it's moving very quickly.
Very fast.
And I don't know that we have the bumpers on.
I would say we definitely don't.
Yeah, see, we saw the internet, right? So we have, everybody talks about the dark web and people talk about this porn endemic, and that's all very true, and it's all there. It's not. Those are realities, and it's unfortunate that they didn't put the bumpers on the internet when they had the opportunity. And the question is, have we put the bumpers on AI, artificial intelligence in general, in time or not? And that question remains to be seen. But we've seen some of the technology at play over the last 4, 5, 8 years with, well, they call them deep fakes and things of that nature. You got videos out there, and technology is amazing.
It is. Yeah, like you said, yes, it's not going anywhere, and there are benefits. I think that, like so many other things too, though, it can be harmful. Like we thought it was bad when our parents put us in front of the TV. When that came out, it was like, oh, you shouldn't let your kids sit out in front of it. Now, like 24/7, though, they can have the cell phone or the computer in front of them and being used as a babysitter. And it can be detrimental, but certainly there's a lot of excitement that we've seen, like you said.
Yeah, and I think it's a great tool. Right? I think there's strategy in utilizing the tool in a way that's going to benefit humanity in a great way, and certainly not take away from that. So all we can do is hope that the policymakers and the decision makers that be utilize it the correct way.
Yes.
Then on the same token, I think that there's also the opportunity for us as individuals and as a collective to start thinking about, okay, what do we truly want? Like I said before, we have the potential to do a lot of things.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people I feel like maybe this is a great question for you to think about, to actually see what your thoughts are, that are, I would say, waiting for someone and something to change the world. Right? We can experience chaos and discombobulation and disconnection. And there is an argument to be made, at least from we start thinking about ancient scholars and philosophers, that would say that the world without is just a reflection of the world within. And if we are experiencing and seeing chaos, it makes you wonder what's going on inside of
Mm.
us. What do we need to develop and change within ourselves so that we can change the outward experience? And there are a lot of people waiting for something to happen. And it's what are you willing to do yourself to take charge of what you can control? And all I can do is control my decisions and my choices and how I develop myself, and then how that is then laid out or put on display in front of the world. What's your thought about
Yeah,
that?
no, I had never really thought about that before, but as you were saying it, I can see how the inner turmoil that so many are experiencing is reflected in our outer world. It almost couldn't exist any other way, right? If you're chaotic in your inner world, it's almost guaranteed that the outer world is going to be chaotic. So yeah, that's very profound, and I love that. I'll have to
Mm,
think some more on that. But yeah, I do think that that makes sense.
mhm,
And I also believe that there are so many people who don't even know that they're
mm,
experiencing this chaos. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
Because so many people think that the outer world is the cause of what's going on inside. And
mhm.
it's really the opposite.
It's literally the opposite. It's the opposite. And I would tell you that I feel like I've talked to a lot of people, shared something very similar, and I think it's hard to wrap your head around that. It is difficult because
It is.
what you're experiencing is your reality.
Yeah.
I try to give someone an analogy. I said, so you and I hang out today and we go have some dinner, and then you go your way and I go my way. What happens after I leave you? And you really can't answer that question unless I share with you and we have a phone call or something. And I tell you the things that I've experienced, but you weren't
Hmm.
there. You didn't see those things. My life just went on another tangent. And
Hmm.
the only way you could honestly know is if I shared it with you.
Hmm.
But outside of that, my reality is mine and yours is yours. Right? I
Hmm.
don't know anything that happened from the moment you went out of my sight. And energetically, we can talk about quantum theory and the whole quantum world and how we're all connected energetically. And when we meet, there's some entanglement where we can actually sense and experience that. But
Hmm.
let's put that aside for a second because
Because
that's a
not everybody knows that or understands it.
But but let's just get on it. Let's get on the basic levels. Okay, you weren't there, so you wouldn't know unless I tell you. And then what I tell you is really just my interpretation of what I think happened
Yes.
to me.
Yes.
So
That is so true.
did that really happen, or is it just my perception of what I think happened to me? And you're trying to make sense of it at that point because I'm sharing it with you, but now you're trying to make sense of it.
That is also how, in the past couple of years, how we view our past, right? Our
Mm,
past is our interpretation. And as, are you familiar with Dr. Benjamin Hardy?
yes.
That's his concept, right?
Mm,
Like the past, we can change our past up here.
yes.
I had this major medical issue in my mid 20s, but instead of saying, oh, woe is me, I have turned that into a positive to say that if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be
Mm,
into health and wellness like I am today. I'm virtually certain. So Yeah, and the whole thing's happening for me instead of to me. But yeah, that's what that reminded me of when you said that it's your perception of what
Right.
happened. It's so
Absolutely.
crazy, like, you can really get on a deeper level about it.
Mhm. And it's a great reframe. It's all about perspective. I myself, when I was actually I was 20 and I was in Desert Shield right before Desert Storm and I got
Wow.
injured. And that changed the trajectory of my entire life. And in one of my talks, I talk about dream killers. And I say sometimes our dream killers are experiences, traumas that we experience or loss that we experience, some major change in our life. Sometimes it's individuals, could be caregivers, could be friends, community tell us that we can't do something and that we're not going to do something or they prevent us from doing those things. But mostly I would say the dream killers are ourselves and our
Mhm.
perspectives and how we interpret what we experience. And then how that leaves a whole nother conversation because
No
like
doubt.
I didn't do that to myself. Actually, you did.
Actually, yes. Oh, yes, trying to have that conversation with people when they haven't experienced it before, like, when they're first confronted with it, I think people are very what is the word I'm looking for? They're very taken aback and don't know how to respond. The
Right.
defensive, that's the word I'm looking for. They're very
Yeah.
defensive, and which
Yeah.
I understand because I only recently learned about this concept myself, so
Yeah.
I get it. But yeah, it is but I'm open to learning too. There's so many people who just even politics, everything
Mhm.
is so shut down now. We used to be able, back in when we were younger, have a conversation with
Yeah.
both sides, and I don't disagree with you, but that doesn't mean I can't be your friend.
Right. Right. So it's interesting how that cognitive dissonance kind of
Yes,
steps in. That's what it is. And it's if I don't have the experience, then it can't be true. And then
right.
that's where what it leads down to, what it boils down to is if I can't have the experience, then it's not true. And it's a beautiful dance thinking about how we move people from belief to knowing,
Mhm.
right? But belief is knowing minus experience. And so until you experience, then it's just belief. Then once you experience it, then you know because you've been in that moment. But it's hard to get people to be open to think about the nuance between the two. But I think that leads to some of the work you do because we have all these experiences and we experience cognitive dissonance and we experience conflict and there's chaos. And then that then is interpreted by our response to the stressors and knowing what those stressors are. It leads to anxiety and fear and anger and frustration mostly, right? So those are probably the top four. I mean, there's
Yep.
certainly joy and love and happiness. And of course, people debate the thing about love, but in peace. But I think that's where you come in. You have tools that you share. I thought I read that you were an author too.
Recently, yes.
Okay. So tell me a little bit
Just
about that.
yeah, just had my chapter published in an anthology. It just came
Awesome.
out in a month ago, actually. The ebook and the paperback is now out. That's the first time I've been on a collaborative effort. I am a published author before.
Mm.
I've written some articles in magazines. My one of my life goals is to write a book, and so
Mm.
this was my way to get my feet wet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my chapter is how my kidney transplant 30 years ago led me to my career in health and wellness.
Oh, awesome. Amazing. We have to share that book with me for sure.
Okay.
Definitely share that with me. I've written a couple of anthologies as well, and I'm in the process
Oh,
of writing my I'll say life's work in some respects. It's one of 5 volumes.
I was gonna say, it sounds like just even from what you've said here and probably hasn't told you haven't told me everything, that you
Um,
definitely need to be writing a book, so
yeah, so I'm in the process of that right now. I'm writing the first one, first of 5, maybe 6, but right now 5 books. It's on the Becoming Human 2.0 journey, and I'm diving into the concepts of human alchemy and making connections between that and ancient wisdom, ancient alchemy, but bridging that with spiritual alchemy, because I think that's, when I say spiritual, it's encompassing of all the religion and everything, right? Systems and values, but really understanding how we make shifts with the heart, mind, body, soul, God, universe, like I said, whatever you want to name the higher source,
mm,
in making that practical because we can stay in the ether, which yes, there's energy, there's frequency, and we certainly can have that conversation. But I think it's the how to, and how to make
Mhm.
it practical, and understanding that your blueprint for transformation and evolution is different than my blueprint. We can dive into the same pillars. Of course, it takes focus and
Right.
balance in these areas, but how
Yep.
you get there and how I get there is going to be different. Oh, wow, what if I knew yours and you knew mine and I could help support you in the process? You could support me. Yeah.
100%.
And that's how I feel like this tribe needs it needs to function. There's that word again, needs to. It would best serve the tribe if we function that way.
Yes.
No, I really enjoyed this conversation. I certainly would love for you to chat with the community and just have an organic conversation. Like I said, these conversations are completely unscripted. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I know that I have a better understanding of your background and where you're coming from and your philosophy on the experience. And I like it and I resonate with it. So I certainly would love to have you share that with the community at large and see where that conversation goes. And what
Yeah,
I'll
that would
do
be
is,
great.
yeah, I'd love it. And so what I'll do is I'll share with you, I'm going to start scheduling shows in the next 2 weeks or so.
Okay.
And I do not know what episode we're going to be at right now because literally 150 people raised their hand on that post.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that. I saw that. I know and you probably know this, and when I saw that the call was 45 minutes, I was like, "Wow, you're taking a lot of time, like,
Mhm.
pre-podcast just to do this." So, I just wanna say I appreciate the time that you're taking, but I also feel like some people are just, "Oh, yeah, this sounds like me. I wanna be in a podcast." When I which
Well,
so I hope you don't have a whole lot of people wasting your time is what I'm trying to say.
no, but I think, I be honest with you, I think that the 45-minute conversation in some respects will deter some people
Oh,
because I am taking the time to have a conversation because at the end of the day, if we don't resonate and energy is not, it's the chemistry is not there, it's not going to be a good conversation. I need to feel like we could be sitting down with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or whatever, and we could sit and chat for 2 hours and to be like we just lose track of time because
right.
the conversation is just flowing. And
Yes.
that's how it needs to be. Because like I said, it's unscripted. So who knows what's going to come up during the conversation? I might just ask a question and it might open up a whole world. And that'd
Right.
be beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. And at the end of the day, you're still going to get an opportunity to talk about what you do and how you serve people and what are some tools and strategies you can use to help people de-stress themselves and really get down to I like to get down into the whole physiology of it. Here's what you're experiencing and let's name it because, you can't even name the experience and it's hard to even address what it is that you're trying to shift.
Right.
So is it anger? Is it anxiety? Is it frustration? Is it sadness? Is it depression? Is it despair? Whatever. Let's talk about that because
Mhm.
people, when you can identify it, it makes it real. And then when you make
Yeah.
it real, then there's tools and strategies you can use to mitigate that, at least lessen the intensity of that experience. Because I
Right.
do truly feel like we're here to experience the full range of emotions. We're here to experience that. We made that choice in spiritual form. We made that choice. And
We
it's like,
did indeed.
Why did I want to suffer? I don't know why you wanted to do it, but here you
Right.
go.
But yeah, but somehow you did. Yeah, exactly.
So
People
what are
don't
you gonna
like
learn
hearing
from?
that.
They don't like hearing that. And I know I didn't like hearing it when I first heard it, but it makes sense. If you take the emotion away from the idea that, hey, I made these choices, but hey, you know what? I know what those experiences feel like. I know what that feels like. And no, I don't want that anymore. But if you've never had that experience, you wouldn't know if you wanted it or not.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
There is a little bit of that to it. Yeah, we will get on the calendar. You'll get a link from an email from me, and I will ask for your bio and some other stuff. I don't know if I'm going to formally title the podcast until after we have a conversation because I don't know what we're going to talk about.
Gotcha, gotcha. But you're not
So
changing the name of the podcast, right?
no,
I mean,
it's
oh,
becoming
okay.
Human 2.0 unscripted.
Okay.
People name episodes. And I'm just, I don't know, episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 just sounds great to me because I don't know what we're going to talk about.
You
There'll be a
know, that's
transcript and that'll summarize the conversation, and then we'll go with that.
exactly. No, I love it. This has been one of the better conversations that I've had recently, I will tell you.
Thank you.
I've loved connecting with you and hope that we can stay connected and do future work. You're doing fabulous things, so I definitely want to be in your space.
Awesome. That's incredible. And I know you indicated you want to hear more about the tribe, and I will shoot it. It's a separate message. So we're not going to get into all that here. I wanted to focus on the podcast
Yep.
specifically, and we will have another conversation about that and see where that goes. But yeah, it was great to connect with you as well. You would definitely hear from me within the next week or two, at the
Okay.
max, before the holiday for sure. We will get something scheduled, and we'll have another conversation. But this time it'll be for real.
I don't know. This felt like a real conversation.
No, it's a real conversation, but it'll be the
I don't
podcast
know.
now. I might listen back to this one and say, "Hey, Gina, we can have another conversation, but maybe it'll be part 2 because this was good enough to be the first one." I don't know.
You let me know. I'm down for it.
That's awesome, amazing. Okay, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
And I look forward to reconnecting with you real soon.
All right, Paul. Thank you so much.
All right, talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye now.